to still be done in the city, especially in Nairobi and Mombasa and other cities, to make sure that the infrastructure has one conduit that will carry all the utilities to avoid similar situations. As a result of, Mr. Chair, before I can conclude on the roads department, as a result of the lessons we've learned from the expressway, we believe that it is now possible to do more of this. And we will be refining the tolling in the integrated road transport policy. We'll make sure that the tolling policy also is looked into, and make sure that the policy itself can provide an incentive for investors to do the same. And in reality, many people who use expressway have come to discover that if you will have to save time and fuel, especially if it's rush hour, the fee you are paying may actually be less than the cost of suffering in the traffic for a long period of time. We hope then we will in future be able to give out PPPs. There are already interest in Mombasa, for people to establish a PPP project, interest in other roads in Nairobi, including the Kiambu Road and so forth. If we are able to get very good PPP programs with affordable prices, then people will be willing to pay and arrive at their destination in shorter time. But also the fee must be regulated by government so that it doesn't become exorbitant and doesn't fleece the members of public. The State Department also is dealing with emerging issues and challenges. Mr. Chairman, I'll mention just two, which is I had mentioned in passing before, which is that we want to adopt technology in infrastructure. And that technology includes the ITS, the Integrated Traffic Management System. And this will use cameras. Our plan, I know many people are saying, oh yeah, CS Transport, we must see you in the roads chasing matatus and forcing compliance and looking at whether people are having safety belts or not. I think it's a bit old-fashioned to do so, to make the cabinet secretary to be running around Thika Road, a highway, and stopping matatus and checking whether people have safety belts. There are people who do that work. But we want to also now take advantage of technology going forward to make sure that technology regulates movement, which means it makes sure that the intelligence system can identify where is traffic and how can we ensure that we manage this traffic. But two, we deal with violations. Okay, so overlap, overspeeding. Hopefully we will reach a stage where the technology can identify whether you're using your phone, and it does in many jurisdictions, and also you're wearing your safety belt. Then enforcement becomes digitized, and hopefully we bring down the problems of violations. We also, and I've discussed with Kenya and NTSA, we want to make sure that at least a few of our highways have cameras, speed cameras. And I've told, and we are working, and I've asked the agencies to work with speed to ensure that by December this year, the next Christmas, okay, we have functioning speed cameras, especially in the highways that have become, Mr. Speaker, very dangerous in terms of loss of life. If we can achieve that, we can reduce a number of the deaths. You know that we reported last year that we had 4,500 people who died because of road accident. And I told the public that, in the entire period of COVID, we lost 5,500 people. In 1 year, we lose 4,500. In 3 years, in the period of COVID alone, we would have lost over 12,000 people. Road accidents, by the way, on a serious note, is a disaster. It's a national disaster. It's a calamity. In fact, it's taking more lives than any other disease combined. Specific diseases in the country. So this is something that we want to invest. And when we ask for budget allocation and support to put resources to ensure that we put this technology in place, it is not because we are moving now to a next level of luxury in terms of road. or road usage. It is because we want to save lives. We want to save 4,500 lives every year. That is the motive that is driving us to make sure that technology works. And the policy formulation process has started. We are working on the draft task force report, memo, to make sure that we establish a task force that will lead us to get policy in place. We also want to put in place a policy on e-mobility. E-mobility in this case means that we want to put in place electric cars, as many electric cars as possible in this country, and hopefully in 10 years or so we should do away with petrol. Because we don't produce oil. Use of oil is the reason why our national reserves are being depleted, actually especially in terms of foreign exchange. We are spending a lot of money in purchase of fuel in terms of dollars and petrol, and I think electric motor vehicles is going to sort out this problem. You know, and you've seen in the news a number of companies already using electric vehicles, electric motorbikes. We are going again. We have started the process of formulating the policy, and this House and this committee will be appraised. We want to, as I've said, alternative infrastructure development financing. The challenges we have, of course, is because of climate change issues. We need to deal with climate change resilient designs. There is delay in land acquisition. That becomes a big problem. And where there is even no delay, there is exaggeration on the compensation fee, and which delays many roads. Encroachment of road reserves, waste dumping, and vandalism on infrastructure assets. You must have seen that the biggest problem in this city is that even when you put road curbs, at night people are stealing the materials and putting people's lives in danger. Volatility in forests affecting foreign currency, dominating contracts and loan repayments. Lack of inter-county and regional coordination framework for cross-border infrastructure projects. And inadequate non-motorized transport facilities. Inadequate regulated framework for governing public transport within metropolitan areas. And huge budget cuts, especially development budget. Mr. Chair, I don't know how I could even have, my challenge number one actually was dealing with pending bills. So to be able to make it the last, maybe I saved the best for last, which is the worst for last. The biggest problem we have at the moment is pending bills, which is we have a pending bill of 140 billion shillings for works that have been done, 140 billion. We have a budget now of only 30 billion shillings. Of that budget, we are even unable to service the entire budget. So what we've done is that we have 18 billion we expect from the National Treasury. We've had to raid annuity fund, which had a reserve of 12 billion. We take it now to use it for paying the pending bills. Everywhere I know in the entire counties, there is a road that has stalled or a contractor has left. We are doing everything to raise resources to take the contractors back on site. But we need 140 billion to do so. We actually need 30-something billion, 35 for road compensation, and about 92 is actual paying for the contracts. Mr. Chair, this is a very, very sticking issue. We are sitting down with contractors who have been, I really sympathize with them. Some of them are being threatened with by auctioneers. They want to be auctioned. We have negotiated with a few of them where we pay them something small from the resources we get and request them to go on site. So from this week, next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of us, you'll be seeing one contractor here and there across the entire country going back. That is based on negotiation and the willingness of the contractor to go back despite the fact that we have not paid the pending bill. We inherited a huge pending bill, but committed roads are in total of 910 billion, which is 90 billion shy of a trillion. Meaning that instead of being a minister of constructing roads, I'll be a minister of pending bills, you know. So my biggest headache, many people keep saying we are not seeing the CS coming around to start our road here in my constituency, my village. This is the message, Mr. Chair. There is no money. And the cabinet secretary for the last 6 months with his team, I've been working around the clock with Treasury to find a little resources to pay the pending bills that had been neglected for over 2 years. If we can get at least a contractor in every county, to get one contractor who will accept it to come to the ground in every county, then we can start construction in those areas. We need a joint effort, and this is to my friend Enogwabu again. This issue is bipartisan, because our friends who are in government then left us with this huge burden. This can never be a one-sided affair. Both sides of the political divide must sit down in Parliament and outside Parliament to find ways of making sure that we resolve these pending bills that are historically inherited. But of course, government acts in perpetuity. So it is my business to make sure that I resolve these problems, notwithstanding where I inherited from. But it will be our business as a country to sit down together and deal with this issue. So here you can see, roads alone has taken a lot of my time. I will quickly mention a few things on the transport sector that will be of great interest to the committee, and then from there we can take questions. The Department of Transport has the air transport, air accident investigation, road and rail, shipping and maritime, especially sea and inland ports, and transport multimodal planning and coordination. The Chair, the following corporations are within this ministry. We have the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, Kenya Airports Authority, Kenya Railways Corporation, LAPSET Corridor Development Authority, Kenya Ports Authority, National Transport and Safety Authority, the National Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority, which is actually, as we all know, this is a regional organization. And Mr. Chair, the Railway Development City is actually not our authority on its own, so that is a mistake that we added it there. The authorities derives the ministry derives its authority from various laws and executive orders, including the Transport Policy Development, National Roads Development, Civil Aviation Management and Training, Rail Transport and Infrastructure Management, National Transport Safety, and establishment of an integrated, efficient, effective, and sustainable urban public transport system within Nairobi metropolitan area. The strategic objective of the department is to strengthen institutional framework for transport, infrastructure and service, and accelerate the speed of completion of sector flagship projects, to develop and enforce necessary regulation and standards, to undertake research and build capacity for development of sub-sector, to expand, modernize, and maintain integrated transport network connecting every part of country and region, to foster regulatory engagement with stakeholders and continuously improve service delivery. The Chair, the department has major projects which are being implemented in this department. I will start by saying formulation and implementation of policies, which I already mentioned when I was talking about roads sector. Actually, the real policy direction is being managed from the transport side, which is the policies on e-mobility, ITS policy. We are working on border policy, and we are actually now completing the review of integrated national transport policy and also the aviation policy. All these policies will be submitted to this committee. We are also working, some of the major projects we're dealing with is rehabilitation and upgrade of meter gauge railway, modernization of MGR workshops, and establishment of MGR transshipment facilities in Malaba, Voi, and Konza. Mr. Chair, you must have seen this is in the railway sector. It's combined with what we call development of a railway city in Nairobi, You will be shocked, Mr. Chair, that Nairobi City has 425 acres of land owned by the city, the railways. I know you are shocked like I was shocked when I entered the ministry and I was told we have 425 acres here between Haile Selassie, Landis Road, up to Uru Highway, up to Wakulima Market down there. And a policy was established to build a railway city there. You must have seen me in the UK for the last 1 week. And the whole meeting was related to financial support we are getting from the UK government to invite private investors to invest in this city. And towards that end, we are having major projects of support projects that will change the face of Nairobi. One of which is rehabilitation of the Nairobi Central Terminus. If you go there now, you know the bridge that goes to Landmawe. Is it called Landmawe? Yeah, yeah, Landis. Yeah, it was Landis, but now Nairobians call it Landmawe. There is the new bridge is being built, a proper bridge, yeah, that will provide transport, people walking as part of the non-motorized transport in the city. And then there is a new design of the central station that can accommodate up to how many million people in a year? It can carry up to, I think, 30,000 per hour actually. We want to move it to be able to move 30,000 people per hour. So that then Nairobi Central, because that will be the hub in terms of transport, rail transport of people going to Mombasa, Naivasha, Kisumu, and then commuter rail within the city. So you will be seeing, hopefully, because we are having very good engagements with our partners in the UK, that this will be a major project taking place in the city, including now a building of a new Wakulima market, which will be relocated there. You will see around the central the central station there, we will have many shops, many sitting spaces. The plan is to ensure that we have a big sitting space that will make Nairobi the melting point of culture and interaction for people of Kenya and the world. And hopefully we will make this successful in the shortest time possible. And then this infrastructure then will inform investors who will come and build different components of infrastructure, whether it's banks, whether it's schools, whether it's housing projects within the city itself. And the conversations we had in the UK with the investors are very useful. We went to look at many regeneration projects in the city of London, York, and other parts of the UK. And then we have preparation for future development of Nairobi and Mombasa. No, let me, before I go to Nairobi, yes, Nairobi and Mombasa commuter rail. We have a plan to build an MGR line from Riruta to Ngong, and later, hopefully, to Ngong, to Kiserian, to Rongai, so that we can move many of these people that are stuck on traffic through a railway transport. I don't know if you know, and this is another thing that perhaps as committee, you should create time to visit the railway and go there in the morning or in the evening to see the number of people who use rail transport in Nairobi. Sometimes, and you know, this is done as almost as like it is national duty, because the railway doesn't make money from it. But we move so many people from the railway. If we rehabilitate the MGR in the city and this line of Kiserian and all the lines we want to do, plus the investments we are looking for commuter light rail through private investments, we are going to sort out the mess that is congestion in this city. We are working on sourcing equipment for air accidents investigations and as resourcing that air accidents investigation department in the ministry, which is also understaffed, investigation of all transport accidents and incidents and officer implementation of safety recommendation, equipping marine schools in Kisumu, development and implementation of integrated system, undertake transport safety programs, completion of automobile vehicle testing centers and drivers testing centers. You must have seen the regulations are with you, or they're in Parliament, yeah? The regulations on this issue of motor vehicle inspection. No, sorry, they are not yet with you. We are actually doing the public participation as a committee. And then surveying and beaconing of lapsed corridor program, development of BRT facilities and implementation of BRT services, operationalization of transshipment model of Lamu Port, and development of remaining 20 berths of Lamu Port, construction of berth 1 of Dongokundu SEZ to catalyze development of Mombasa Special Economic Zone, development of Shimoni Fish Port as an artisan semi-industrial fishing port to support fishing activities to spur blue economic growth once completed, negotiation of review of bilateral air service agreement across with other countries, and the railway city. Let me say this, Mr. Chair. Railway transshipment and logistics hub facilities in Voi, Konsa, and Athi River, improvement of infrastructure of JKIA and various airports, and development of lapsed corridor. Let me say this in brief. In terms of the port of Mombasa, we think that we need private investment in this port of Mombasa to support the existing investment by the KPA itself. So we want to have a conversation on concessionaire, getting concessions to private investors to develop some of the parts, especially what is famously known as berth 11 to 14. That needs private investments working together with KPA. The model on how to go about it, we are working on it with PPP department. The Dongokundu SEC support infrastructure of the berth. Already a tender was floated. It's being supported by Japanese government. We are at the tail end of this tendering process, and in another maybe a month or two, you will see the contractor on site to start construction of the berth that will support Dongokundu Special Economic Zone, whose responsibility, of course, as a special economic zone is in the hands of a trade and investment department. But we are the ones as a ministry that are working on supporting infrastructure, including compensation, including water reticulation within the infrastructure itself. On the Lamu side, we want to look for this investment that will come to Mombasa, must be ready to work on development of the Lamu port. You know that the Lamu port has 3 berths now properly built. Equipment is being sourced by KPA, has already been sourced by KPA, and they will be delivered. But the Mombasa port is not properly functional. So we are looking for also an investor who will come in with other investments in the special economic zone of Lamu that will come and invest in the SEZ and create demand side for us to export products using the Lamu port. Together with that, so that you can see the coexistence of this ecosystem, is to do the road from Lamu to Garissa, which at the moment the contractor is almost done, but is doing Maram Road, a very expensive Maram Road. Yeah, we want to now. We have directives from the executive, from the president, to make sure that we tarmac this road. And in the financial circumstances I told you, this is a very serious challenge. So we are looking for ways of getting resources, development partners, or whoever else, to make sure that we tarmac that 250 kilometers from Lamu to Garissa, so that then the road that is already going on from Garissa to Isiolo and to Moyale, we can do a special economic zone and inland container depot somewhere in Moyale and maybe somewhere in Isiolo, and people can move their goods going to south. Our target is to make sure that we target the market in the southern Ethiopia with 50 million population, and South Sudan. South Sudan route, later we will have to do the road from Isiolo to Lokichar, so that it plugs in into the other road from Eldoret and then it goes to Nakadok. That way, Lamu will become viable, and we will have a second corridor, because we are now depending on one corridor going to Uganda. Chair, also the other challenge, the SGR itself doesn't go all the way to Kisumu and doesn't go all the way to Malaba. It's something that we have to think about, getting a private investor to move the SGR beyond Naivasha. And even for commuter purposes, we have been thinking we wish it had ended in Naivasha town, so that the commuter part of the SGR can get resources quickly, because people will move from here to Naivasha, and that's something we're also thinking about it. But the good news is that we have rehabilitated the MGR, so the goods reach Naivasha and then they move to the meter gauge railway and they're transported to Malaba and then to Uganda. We are happy to note that Uganda is working on its SGR from the border of Malaba to Kampala. And that encourages us, because then it means that this corridor will remain viable and competitive even in future. But because of competition in the region, competition is a good thing, we must always work every day to think about being a step ahead of our neighbors if we must remain relevant in the region as a transport corridor and a transport hub. The last thing I'll say in this part is the airport, is that the airport requires also a lot of work. The airport in Nairobi, especially here where we are, we must make sure that we have a proper terminal. The terminal here is not accommodating the traffic that we have. We are way behind in terms of construction of a good airport terminal. The rehabilitation process that is going on, it will continue, but we are thinking of getting a private investor to do a second terminal, and whether or not we need a second runway is still being debated, but a second terminal is needed urgently through PPP to make sure that we take advantage. We have issues to resolve historically from what we call greenfield here, and we have been moving towards negotiation and mediation to resolve the legal disputes that are there. The legal issues are there. Then finally, the Namata, I just mentioned this so that I close it. The rest is you can be able to go through it yourself. The Nairobi Metropolitan Transport Authority has a lot of responsibility to make sure that we sort out transport mess in the city. Again, we are in the process of putting in place legal reform to make Namata a proper agency with the act by itself, but also working with private investors to establish BRT infrastructure. And the funding is already been assured in some of the routes. In some of the routes, we have to get PPP, and in others, GOK has to put resources to make sure that we have a bus rapid transport. And we have said the buses that will be acquired through this BRT project of Nairobi should be electric, to set the example. We are talking about clean energy, but also reduce on the cost of fuel. On ferry, because I think that's something I forgot, the ferry system, Mr. Chair, we are working towards getting a ferry for Lake Victoria to work within the port of Kisumu, the Siaya, Homa Bay, and Migori, the transport system around Lake Victoria region. But also we are doing, Kenya Ferry Services is part of KPA now. We want to also see ways of getting another ferry for the Likoni channel, to assist us in the Likoni channel. Mr. Chair, you can see I can speak and speak and speak the entire day. I see there's general concern on the Kenya Airways issues. I know this is also a very sticking issue for this committee and for Parliament. Kenya Airways as an entity is doing well, although it can do better. Yeah, it can do better. Yes, doing well, but we can do better. If you think about many aviation sectors and airlines that have collapsed because of COVID and all these other challenges, you must give credit to Kenya Airways because it looks like the fundamentals are strong. If the fundamentals of Kenya Airways was not strong, it could not get the interest we see other people are interested in. But we have a problem, and the problem is historical. It's not present. The investment they did in Project Mawingu about 2012 and thereabout, generated a huge debt for Kenya Airways. And this debt is holding down the company from flying higher because for every revenue they get, they must pay this debt. We are having now a discussion as to what do we do, okay? What do we do so that government cannot continue subsidizing Kenya Airways? Because our shareholding has moved to 48% as a result of turning some of the debt to equity. But even that did not resolve the problem. We still have to subsidize the financial situation of Kenya Airways. We are now talking with various investors to see if we can have strategic investors. In fact, for the benefit of all these investors, if you remove the Kenya Airways debt and put it aside, which is an old debt, you put it aside, and run Kenya Airways as it is at the moment, it is profitable and is very viable. And it will be able to get more equipment to service the routes that they need to service. The problem is it can't do this because it inherited a huge debt, which is almost 1.6, now it stands at $1.6 billion. If you remove that one from them, and we find a ways of doing so, the Kenya Airways as a company can be very, very profitable. And it plays a very critical role in our economy. How to remove that is the conversation. The conversation we're having is how do you deal with that? Do you get a strategic investor? What will government do? You will see a cabinet decision coming out of the policy proposals we are going to give as a ministry in another maybe a month or so. We have the government itself, we committed ourselves before elections that in 1.5 years we will have put in place measures to ensure that Kenya government can no longer subsidize Kenya Airways. So we are running, we have a target we gave ourselves that by next year, government of Kenya can no longer subsidize Kenya Airways. And the real roadmap to that direction will be outlined before June this year by proposals that will come from this ministry and the Ministry of Finance, but will be adopted by the cabinet itself. So, Chair, this was not supposed to be a monologue, it's supposed to be interactive. I have not exhausted the things that we are doing. This is indicative of the plans that we have as a ministry. Is there an agency, a department? I know I didn't say anything about Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and it's okay if we don't say anything about Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. It means our airspace is safe. But we are in continuously investing in the equipment and technology of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority for them to provide proper services to make sure that our airspace is safe and to make sure that we serve this country. We make this country a very competitive aviation hub. Any other? I think I have touched on almost every agency here and every department. We're willing now, Mr. Chair, to take clarifications, questions, and it usually clarification in this situation, and can be now responded to by anybody here, the MDs and so forth, so that we can get out the interactions that we wanted to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And as usual, the reason why I'm talking, maybe I miss any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bonasias. Wow, that's quite a mouthful. So many things that you're planning to do, but there's no money. I don't know whether we should go on. But there is hope, and that's why we are engaging, so that we see what we can do. I don't know whether members you have, I would want to hear your input first from what the CS has presented. And since both the PSAs and the other agency officers are here, I believe they'll be able to tackle some of your queries. So, Senator Umbua.
Yeah. Chair, I'm laughing because then I actually don't know where to start. Mine could be a longer monologue than the CSS, but I will try. I will really try to be as brief as I can. First of all, is to thank the CS for finally finding time to come. On the CS, some of us are already getting very worried. And I need to say this in presence of your staff so that they know exactly what they're dealing with. There are two things that I credit our CS for in this country. One, a lot has been said about the Constitution 2010 and the issue of devolution. And there are a lot of people who want to take credit for that devolution thing, and it's okay. But truth be said, the chapter on devolution, and especially on matters counties, have the fingerprints of your CS all over. In essence, he could be said to be one of the fathers of devolution and a true defender of counties and county governments. Perhaps when I see that's all I can say about you in a positive light. Now let's come back to the ministry why you are here. When I see I will touch on a few things and I'll ask a few questions, then I'll leave my colleagues to continue. First, and let's begin where you stopped, on the matter of Kenya Airways. I think Kenya Airways has, for all intents and purposes, moved from being the pride of Africa to the shame of our nation. That's what it is. An airline that has continued to take in money from the taxpayer, an airline that has continued to be the most expensive in the region, an airline that has continued to enjoy the goodwill of Kenyans, and especially government ministries, because every government ministry uses Kenya Airways. But at the end of the day, it still continues to post losses in billions. And every time we throw in money there, we don't see much happening. We may want to know what the magic will be on your part as now the sitting minister in charge of that facility. And the question that Kenyans are asking are very basic questions. Shouldn't we let this airline just go down and start afresh? Or what is the magic to get us safe in the skies? Civil aviation, you haven't said much, and I am happy you haven't. I will just make a comment. Let the civil aviation concentrate on ensuring that our skies are safe, really safe. But also mention that I think that civil aviation is also one of those institutions, like Kenya Railways, that has quite some land all over the country. But I'm the DG. I would request through the CS that the civil aviation will stick to their land and stay away from other people's lands. And I say this very advisedly. There's a running battle. This is not personal, this is public. There's a running battle between the aviation and my local church in Nairobi over land that the courts have declared belongs to the Africa Inland Church, but the civil aviation is still running after that land at Wilson Airport, and you know that very well. So just stick to your land, let other people continue with their land. Namata, Waziri, we have been there with you. we've been told many times that the previous administration has gone to South Africa to benchmark on, the Reavaya system. At some point, we saw the ministry painting some pink, as it red, lines on the road, and then construction of some, I think, stations. And we were told that 54 buses are arriving in the next 2 weeks. We are still waiting. So maybe we need some clarification on whether really that's a way to implement BRTs. I'm not sure whether that's really the way. But if that's the way, then the ministry needs to tell us where we are with that no matter business. And that also touches on the Nairobi Metropolitan Transport Corridor. We all agree that Nairobi City has 3 bedrooms. One in Kajiado, another one in Machakos, another one in Kiambu. But we only talk about it. We do very little to link these 3-4 counties. And yet, if we did that, then we would seriously decongest our roads. We would reduce the pressure on housing in Nairobi. We would clean up a lot of slums by just doing the right thing. And for me, I think that would be creating that corridor that we have not been able to create, and sufficiently making sure it runs. The airport, the Greenfield project. The most unfortunate thing, Waziri, is that the Greenfield project, in my view, and it should be the view of this committee, is really maybe the way to go. We are very old school in this airport. But just because of personal business interests, a project that is supposed to propel us as a nation to play in the league of almost near Dubai there, we mess up an entire project like that. Can your term be the term that then we see something done on the Greenfield project and forget about these personal interests? See, on transport, railways, Waziri, and I have heard you say this before when you are seated on this side, it's actually a shame that we don't have trams in Nairobi. It's actually, you can't even explain. A city our size, our country, our economy at its size, without trams, then there must be a serious missing link somewhere. I hope that you will say something about that. Of course, with the long distance rail transport, the central station is a brilliant idea, if you ask me. And so that is not just a railway station; it is an integrated space where you have restaurants, you have recreational facilities, you have museums. It can be a beautiful thing if it can be done. I think that's all I want to say about transport, and then I finish with roads through the chair. The roads system, the department will need months to deal with. To begin with the classification of roads, that's a long-standing conversation. County governments are crying that the ministry has infringed on roads that initially belonged to them. I don't think they are very off the mark. They have a point there. That's a conversation we need to have on Waziri going forward. The RMLF fund. And Waziri, I'll keep reminding you, because you are also our leader in many respects. You are very firm when you sat on this side, that you cannot just wake up one day and invade a fund established by an act of parliament and make it part of equitable share going to counties without changing that act. It's not right. It's not right. I would want to hear what the ministry has to say about that, because I saw, even in this budget, It's still being invaded. Second last, and you said you have a dilemma in terms of pending bills. But for me, Waziri, and you know me very well, I will say these things the way they are. I see a lot of discrimination from your ministry, a lot of it. A lot of it when it comes to roads being done in eastern region. I saw a lot of it. And I am happy that the engineers that we dealt with that time are still here. Engineer Dongo is here, Mshilo is here. The Kibwezi, Mutomo, Kitui, Migoni Road. Honestly, a road of over 182 kilometers, the compensation amount is less than 2 billion, it's around 2 billion. For years on end, people have not been compensated. In fact, for your information, Waziri, I think this week the contractor is packing, is leaving site, because in this budget, the contractor has been given 12 million Kenya shillings, when he's supposed to have been given 3 billion Kenya shillings. It's I don't know. Maybe it's because of the positions that we have taken, but again, it is what it is. That road, Waziri, you sat with me and you championed the compensation of those people. They have not been compensated. I told you the compensation amount is 2 billion. We started that conversation with Eldoret bypass compensation, a road of around 32 kilometers. The compensation amount was around 5 billion. It's almost completed, the compensation. The western bypass here, which is 18 kilometers, it's 5 billion. It's already paid for. You know, we can only make conclusions because we don't sit there, we don't know what's happening there. So that's an area that, even in this term, until then the right thing is done, I'll keep talking about it. Lastly, on the expressway. That expressway, Waziri. The main road, for lack of a better word, the road downstairs. Yeah? The bottom. So the road downstairs, when the contractor came on site, that road was perfect. In fact, I remember it had been recarpeted. So the contractor comes in, does the road upstairs, messes up the road downstairs, and now we are supposed to pay him to return the road where it was. Who does that? I mean, really, who does that? I think on this one, Waziri, on this one there will be a lot of differences between us and the ministry. Because we cannot have a situation where you find a road in good shape, you mess it up, then you are paid another billion, some other billions of shillings to restore the road to its original status. I think that one is for us just a no-no. Then lastly, what was this? I think that was it. Waziri, lastly, you know, you said you have no money, and that's maybe the reason why you have disappeared. But when you don't have money, don't disappear. Yeah, come out and tell people there is no money. Yeah, go run around and let people see you, and then you tell them the reason why you're not doing ABC is because you don't have money. And they know you can do that very well. So that I let other senators say things. I will stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. I think before we go to Senator Chute, we have Senator Asige. Senator Asige, you can introduce yourself. She is a friend of this committee, and we will let her be telling you why she's here. So Senator Asige, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable members, Waziri and your team, good morning. My name is Senator Crystal Asige. I am indeed a friend of this committee. The reason being because I am an inclusive transport and mobility practitioner outside of the corridors of Senate, of course. And now that I'm in Senate, this committee and its projects are of much interest to me. And hello again to Waziri since the last time we spoke in December. I'm just glad to see you again. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, but I wanted the CS to first of all exhaust what Senator Wambua has asked, so that we don't bombard them with so many questions at once. So take it up. But on that issue of the expressway, the bottom and the house, I think the committee, I mean the upper road, I think the committee should be furnished with the status report of that road, just to understand why the contractor who did the upper house probably is not the same one who is doing the bottom one, yet he is the one who brought all this mess. But you can answer this one first.
Thank you, Chair. First, let me say on the KQ issue, Honorable Senator Wambua, you are right in many ways in terms of the disappointment of the people of Kenya in the subsidy. It is the same disappointment that has that we have expressed from the part of the executive. Let's start by saying Kenya Airways is a private company. Let's start from there. But where government has some shares, and because of those shares, government also has had strategic interest of the ministry beyond of the Kenya Airways beyond just its part of the share, because of the overall contribution of Kenya Airways as an institution to the economy. There is no debate, Senator Wambua, that if today Kenya Airways was not here, there are some destinations we will never go to. And that you will start having situations where for you to go to Burundi, you might have to go to South Africa. Yeah, or you go to Egypt first and then you land in Burundi. So the Kenya Airways itself as an institution and as a company gives us many strategic advantages, in terms of making Nairobi a hub, the number of people who come passing through Nairobi, in terms of making Nairobi viable as a city for conferencing, in terms of promoting our tourism, the support it gives to the tourism is huge. In terms of transport of goods, if you think about carrying our flowers and other perishable goods to other destinations. So Kenya Airways as itself may make a loss as a company, but it creates strategic benefits to the country, to us as a nation. And you need such an airline. You need a airline. It doesn't have to have ownership of government or shareholding of government, but you need an airline like Kenya Airways to make your country more viable as a transport hub. And therefore, if you look at the contribution of the transport sector to the economy, transport sector, that's the port, the airport, the airways, all this, it is second or the first in terms of its contribution to the economy. Yeah. So having this, let's start from the fundamentals. Having Kenya Airways alive and kicking and functioning is important for everybody. The question is, should we have it with a subsidy in the manner in which we have? No. Were there certain strategic decisions that were made in the past that has crippled Kenya Airways and put in the situation? Yes, of course. And that's why we have a debt. So since we have a situation in our hands, Honorable Wambua, we cannot say we throw away the baby and the bathwater and say, the whole place must, we need to bomb. No, we have to strategically engage to find out how exactly are we going to sort out the situation they are in, and who are the other strategic investors. Already, when we came in, there was already a conversation going on. How can we make Kenya Airways part of a Pan-African airline? Put together a South African airline and other airlines in the region, and they share routes and destinations and so forth, and share the losses and the assets that they have, the planes and so forth. Then they can meet their objectives. There is a more deeper conversation on this subject alone. And that's why I told you Cabinet will be making its decision based on the proposals we are going to put on the table in a few days. I don't think the right place is to allow them to go down, but there are various suggestions about to restructure, maybe separate move passengers from cargo, create more products, make them use their maintenance department to do more services in that area. There are lot more discussions. We visited many countries and met many investors. The president even had a meeting with Delta Airline the other day, and it was reported. And so trying to get people who can be able to come and support us. So Kenya Airways, I can tell you for sure, with the right, if we find the right solution to this debt problem and make sure that its management is more responsive and sort out their labor issues. Remember, they have a very serious, CBA that requires a certain level of investment by the company on their staff. Again, that conversation has to go into it. So that is Kenya Airways. Number two, on the KCA and the charge, did you want to say something around? Yes. Why are you stopping people?
May I proceed, CS? Chairperson and honorable members, on the first question about continuing to ensure our skies are safe. Not too long ago, Kenya underwent the International Civil Aviation Organization Universal Security Audit Program. We should be proud of ourselves, our chairperson and members, because as a result of that international audit, Kenya is the best in sub-Saharan Africa and soon to the best in Africa in matters aviation security based on international standards. So at KCA, working with all the other partner state agencies under the leadership of our PS and CS, we ensure that our skies are safe and we never compromise on any matter safety. On the second item that was brought out by Senator Wambua on AIC land at Wilson Airport, I'm still trying to confirm because I'm not aware of any case like that. However, Senator, before the end of this session, I'll have confirmed whether it's actually with Kenya Airports Authority. It's actually been confirmed it's with the Kenya Airports Authority and not the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Chairperson, I submit.
I think it is. I was actually wondering because your only concern would have been if there was an encroachment on the flight path, yeah. But in this situation, I think it's a KA land, or a dispute between KA, or the land was hived before from KA and allocated to the church, which there is no problem if it went through the required legal process. I must declare my interest that I'm a member of AIC. So I should not be hard to say more than beyond that. But we will follow the legal process, the due process of the law. Let me confirm to Senator Wambua that I'll look at the facts and see what's happening. I'll consult the KA and get back to you. And in any case, make sure that the law is followed. Now, on Namata, I would have given Engineer Gitau to just take you through what we are doing. But Mr. Chair, today was just snippets of what we are doing. You will have to invite us on issue by issue, issue by issue. Because Namata alone can take you 2-3 hours to discuss. Because through Honorable Wambua, I am still convincing myself that the infrastructure in Thika Road, Musagitao knows it. Every time I meet him, I tell him, can a bus pass through that thing really? For real? Because that's myself, this painted yellow and but if you look at many cities, and particularly if you Google, you take your time and go to YouTube and see Jakarta BRT system, you will notice that there was an existing road, then they created a BRT line along the place. And at the peak hours, you will see in Jakarta, the BRT people are moving faster, and there's a huge traffic on this other side. That is where we should achieve The work that we are doing in Namata should lead us there. The reason why we haven't completed the pilot project, which is that what you see in Thika Road, is because there is a gap, funding gap of about 3 billion, which has not been dispensed for the last 3 years. And that's why the pilot line has not succeeded. Yeah, we are still, and when we came in again because of the debt situation and financial situation, the economic situation, we had to cut about 300 billion from our budget. And as a result, the heavy hit the ministry was ourselves, the airports with the construction of the airstrips and the Namata itself. But if we find solution to this, I have made a case enough to Treasury that we need to complete that line fast as a pilot, because there are 5 lines, including the Machakos one, including the Thika one, including the one for it's called what? This one for Dandora. Yes, Dandora. Dandora actually has advanced in terms of some funding from development partners, and we are trying to negotiate with them how to finance that Dandora line. So if we succeed in the pilot line, and if we get these resources, we will come back to you with full information. Meanwhile, again, the committee make time. Together we can go visit the parking in Kasarani and the Thika Road infrastructure, and acquaint ourselves with what exactly is happening there. Especially we can go on a weekend or something where the traffic is less, or in a midday thereabout where the traffic is less. Then,
but as you go on, you mentioned about the issue of you call them trams.
Trams.
Yeah, trams. Yeah, for easiness of traffic. In the US, they have lanes called HOVs.
Yeah.
High occupancy vehicle. Right. If your vehicle has more than 2 people, you use that lane. If you are alone, you have to use kwame kwa jam.
Right.
In China, they used to have a green day, and they used to say a certain day, let's say a Wednesday, only cars with a certain number plate, which ends with an odd number.
Yeah.
Will be allowed in the city. So if yours is even number, you don't use it for that day. Yeah. So I think I'm just saying that to see some things are being done just to control traffic.
Yeah.
It might not be what Kenyans would expect.
Yeah.
Because if you are told if your car ends with 0, you'll buy the one ends with 1. But I just wanted to highlight that so that as you work on that, there are some other remedies for fighting traffic. You can go on.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, you're right. On the BRT is trying to resolve that problem because it will be a designated line for only buses and buses that are BRT buses. And it's not just coming with just a normal bus. It will be a bus with proper systems. Communication system, management system, properly timed. You know exactly. If you go to Allsops, it will come exactly 10:01. It will be 10:01 there. So this BRT is not just about the infrastructure, and it's also part of our working towards changing culture, changing the mindset, the mentality that we have in this country. I sympathize with you when you say we should also designate certain roads for high-density vehicles. But do you believe that our matatus will accept? We'll just see that road and say, oh, this is for disabled, this one is for... No, they will not follow because the problem is the culture. That is why part of the ITS system of having cameras and monitor all these and violations, once we change this mindset, we can now provide the road, and those who will use it, because we have cameras and we have a monitoring system and evidence is acceptable, the technology evidence is acceptable, then we can use that to also make sure that now we can buy buses and say this road is designated for buses. You saw many cities just written bus, and there is no other vehicle that goes through it because it's for a bus, because it's the mindset that is the issue. Did you want to add something, Mr. Kitao?
Oh, sir. I think you have said enough, sir, because...
You have to be answered. Just come here. Just come here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Let me sit here next to my brother here. Honorable Chairman, and our CS has said very clearly that the BRT system is a system that requires some time to interact with the committee. We at Namata, we are very ready to be able to take you through the 5 bus rapid transit corridors that were started in 2014. As our CS says, our system will be a universal access kind of a transport system. We have taken care of the people with disability, children, the old, and therefore it is not like a competition kind of a ride. And on top of that, then it is a rapid service that will benefit from economies of scale and will be able to charge lower fares. And in all transport hubs, like the one we are doing in Kasarani, we will have park and ride services whereby there can be a transfer from the motorized traffic to the BRT. And remember, the studies that exist clearly show that the people who own cars in this city are less than 13%. 87% of our people are using matatus or walking, and public transport system will be a system of the people. And for those who will be stuck in traffic jams, most of them will be very happy to transfer to a credible, reliable, safe public transport system that is like the kind of a system that happens always in a society that is progressive. So I don't want to go beyond that, just to say we look forward in a matter to host the committee on site and also really dissect the issue of public transport. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gitau. On the new airport terminal, I agree with no further reservations, Chair. I think what Honourable Senator was saying was to buttress what I had already said earlier. Nairobi light rail trams and so forth, I totally agree with your proposals as well on the same. And we are looking for private investors. This is very viable. If you are a private investor and you invest in light rail, it will return. It will return. We just need to agree on the period of concession, but you will get your returns from it. Central Station as an integrated space, I agree again. So that in the interest of time, you are very right, Honourable Wambua. Classification of roads. Classification of roads, as I said earlier in my report, is ongoing. So we will have to do something about it. But in terms of, I have told governors I would never worry if an agency here is willing to come and take a road in my place. I would never worry, except to the usual fear that if they were to take more roads, maybe we will not have something to do. But if you see every county, there is no money enough for even a county government to do what they want to do, even after you give them a conditional grant. So anytime there is an agency, if Kera is willing to take I've told a number of my friends who are governors, any day if they say, I want to take it today, because you will have a good road, you will have more investment coming to your place, hotels, whatever. If they have the money to do it, let's do it. The thing is, in terms of classification, if it is not linked to money, because, Honourable Hambua, it will reach a stage where if we do these electric vehicles, there will be no RMLF. Okay? So then everybody will have to go and budget their roads. Outright budgeting. You will have to get the national money, and from national budget, you budget. County, you budget. So we must be ready, for now, we must just be ready to accept, to let go certain roads when they grow. I've told the governors, the roads that were constructed by county government in 2012 have now connected one county to the other. Nowadays, governors are so happy to say, we want you, if you go to Kera and Kura, they have written so many letters saying, can you take these ones? I have another new ones I want to open to enter villages and, So the entity that is able to get more resources, convince development partners to come and invest on those roads and so forth, by virtue of being national. If they take a road in my village, I'm more than happy. In fact, it is the MPs actually who keep coming and the senators who keep coming and saying, no. County Airways, please help us take it to national government.
I agree with you totally,
Yeah.
through the chair. I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
But this is a wider conversation than just a function. Because this is a function of the county government. And
Yeah.
when you drafted the laws on
Yeah.
on devolution,
Yeah.
funds must follow functions. The fear of the county governments, which will actually be the fear of the Senate, is that as then you take away these functions from the counties, then the argument for allocation of funds
becomes a problem. Yeah. That is the thing. The thing is, and I remember even our discussion in the Senate then, we need to separate a right of counties to get money for managing roads from the question of classification of and transfer of roads. And we're having a meeting with counties. This thing has come up immediately when we came to office. I think there is an ongoing conversation, and through our committees of the Ministry and the Committee of Transport in the Council of Governors, which is incidentally chaired by the Governor of the Senate, of the Chairman of the